Hey, everybody. I'm going to show you two panels here in a comic book. It's a Captain Marvel comic book. And, I want for the moment, please, if you can, just suspend kind of your general feelings about I love it, I hate it, the fans who hate it are bad fans, or the fans who love it are stupid fans, whatever it happens to be. Just put all that aside for the moment because I think these two panels illustrate something for me. It starts to bring some things to the table that we don't often talk about. The conversation gets derailed. And let me try and land it. I may fail. You may absolutely disagree with everything that's said here, but let's try this together. Hey everybody, this is Perch. On your screen right now, you should see two panels. This is from the most recent issue of Captain Marvel. And basically what's going on here is that we've got somebody who's kind of the half-sister. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but I'm trying to give you the too long didn't read version. We've got somebody who's kind of the half-sister-ish of Carol, and that's the very strong, muscular woman there on the right of each panel. And she's talking to Hazmat in the first panel, and then Spider-Woman kind of dips in for a second. You might be saying to yourself, why is Spider-Woman and Hazmat clothing this kind of bluish green, gray color? And it's because this is a storyline where Captain Marvel, during Empire, has basically got the accuser hammer, and she's the Kree accuser during this thing, and so she's gotten a color scheme. She's got a color swap. It's like when you play a video game, and you get that palette swap because you unlocked a character, but they didn't really do anything different. They just changed the colors around. It's like you got a brand new character. It's like, or you just changed the hue value there. Anyway, so Captain Marvel got that palette swap, and then she gave her friends, which includes Hazmat and Spider-Woman and War Machine, the palette swap as well. So they're all nicely color coordinated. And so that's what's going on. So Hazmat is basically kind of like, who are you? And they're going into this background. And the dialogue is like, I was, made in a lab, designed to be a soldier. Hazmat says, I see. Well, what are you into? And she says, into? Because she's a Kree warrior and they're not into anything. And it's like hobbies, stuff when you're not being soldiery. And she says, I like flowers. And Hazmat says, flowers are cool, I guess. They are, as you say, cool. They are, as you say, cool. It's funny, I should just read this because reading this kind of, I think, is 90% of the problem. You kind of get to, this dialogue sounds very clunky. So is it like, into? Like hobbies, stuff to do when you're not being soldiery. I like flowers. Flowers are cool, I guess. They are, as you say, cool. And Spider-Woman ducks in. Your arms are incredible. Yes, I love them. Same. Okay, so I'm not trying to put on a funny voice, just some voice with some emotion there. In the past, when people have complained about Captain Marvel or Marvel books in general, or DC books, or woke writing, or whatever the label they want to put on it, it often immediately people start to think about, it's the problem is with women. Either it's the female characters that are in the panel or it's the female creators. And so the conversation becomes about women, like you don't like women, or, we're trying to make women into men, or just it gets down into kind of a weird track. And I always I hate when it goes there because it always feels like people are missing the point. And I think these two panels illustrate it because if you kind of imagine what I'm going to do on the screen. So imagine, first off, so you said the complaints come in like, oh, well, these women aren't attractive to you. These are different body types because we've got a muscular woman and everything. And it's true. We have the one muscular, almost She-Hulk, form woman there on the right, the half-sister. But Spider-Woman and Hazmat are both drawn. I mean, first of all, you see very little of them. So there's really not a body shape, but they're clearly in good shape. You can tell just from the neck and the body and everything else. If you transform this image to the Carol's half-sister being like a supermodel, like a 90s extreme level of just the unrealistic boobs and everything else going on, it doesn't make any of this better. So I say that because a lot of people push back like, oh, you just don't like how women are rendered on the page. It's like, I don't think that is a factor at all here. I think if you got Rob Liefeld to come in here and draw these two panels and he drew, super sexy versions of everybody, it doesn't improve. Now, I guess there are some people who would look at this comic and go like, well, now I like looking at it. But I think those people should just stick to porn. I mean, there's plenty of that stuff on the internet. That's not the problem. The problem is that this woman is muscular. And I know I've seen some people like, oh, look, they're trying to make her into a man. I don't think so. I mean, maybe not. It's irrelevant to the story. And then you can take it further and go, well, okay, what if it was, so if it's people hate women, then what if it was 3 men in this picture? So now we're going to kind of squint our eyes and we picture like Hawkeye and Peter Parker is hanging from the ceiling, and it's like the Hulk or Thor is standing there with his arms crossed. But same dialogue, same setup. Does it get any better? And the answer is no. It's kind of awkward humor. This was kind of the eye-rolling humor in like 80s comedies where, the big kind of muscular guy shows up and he's been raised in a lab and he has no sense of humor. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger was in all these movies, and it's like, I like the cats. And it's like, oh, you like cats? I like cats. And it's like, I mean, it's like we've seen this joke before. Which gets to kind of the heart of where I think this panel goes wrong. And I think it's indicative of a lot of how comics are written. To me, none of this is when I look at this, I'm like, this seems dumb. This is a comic that is not for me. When I say it's not for me, it's not because of the characters involved. It's not because whether they're women or men, or in this case, blue-skinned or whatever it happens to be. We can make all 3 of these characters straight or gay or whatever. That's not going to matter. It's the fact that this dialogue, this back and forth, reminds me of a straight-to-video. I mean, like today, this kind of setup is the stuff that WWE production straight-to-video movies are like. It's like whatever, like the Miz is in like the Marine 5, and it's featuring like Drew McIntyre and the Miz as soldiers. It's like there's no love here, and I don't know anyone who really likes this. I mean, even people who are in theory into kind of the slice of life stories and everything else, the stuff that's really successful, the Raina Telmeigers, the Scott Pilgrims, everything else. The dialogue has a distinctive tone and a flavor and snappiness to it. It doesn't immediately make you flash back to 80s movies, bad 80s movies. And I think there's a bunch of other little things that kind of irk me. I mean, I do dislike the approach of like, we're just going to copy the panel twice. We're going to add something in. We're going to have these kind of dialogue pages of these moments. This is kind of the thing that was popularized a lot with Joss Whedon, where you'd have some action and then you'd have a break in it, and then they'd have this kind of witty dialogue back and forth. And I'm not a huge fan of that, but this isn't even witty dialogue back and forth. It's like, you've got muscles. Yes, I do. I love your muscles. Same. It's just odd. And I specifically walked through this because I whenever you complain about this stuff, or if fans complain, it's often, oh, you hate female creators, you hate female characters, you hate this and this and this. And I can't speak for everyone else. Maybe that is what everyone else is pissed about. I don't know. I could be the weird outlier who's like, this just reads terrible. That's where I'm at. This just reads really clunky, really bad. I don't care who the characters are. And by the way, if this was, it's written, this is written by Kelly Thompson. If it was written by Chris Claremont, it would still be bad. And by the way, I know a lot of people are, they love Chris Claremont or they love Jim Shooter. There's a bunch of names that we all lionize all over the place in comics. But they're definitely clunky stuff. When Chris Claremont was rolling out Kitty Pryde saying, "Them's the breaks," like every other issue, or Wolverine going, "I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice." I mean, that string of dialogue became so eye-rolling because it was used so much that, I mean, even Marvel started making fun of it. When you had a What the, if you remember that comic, this kind of parody comic, they would have jokes about Wolverine doing I'm the best at what I do isn't very nice. And just like it was a cliche. And so this style of dialogue has become a cliche in comics. It doesn't feel fresh. It doesn't feel new. It doesn't feel inventive. It just feels kind of eye-rolling. And now I want to say, for the record, I guarantee you there are absolutely people who are into this. And that may be you. And if that is you, that's cool. Again, don't take me not liking something as some giant, like, I don't feel compelled to like go to the store. I'm not calling for this to be canceled. I haven't created any online petitions to, stop publishing this stuff. The most I'm going to do is videos like this where I'm really trying to dissect what is it about this dialogue, this comic, the structure that just, it makes you wince. It makes me wince. Why? Because I think, it's easy to complain. It's easy to put something up and be like, oh, look at this stupid comic. But I really want to try and break down like what it is that is crazy and frustrating. And I think to go down that path, you do have to accept, and this is hard for a lot of people, I grant you, that there are some people who are like, this reads perfect to me. And if that's you, great. They're selling a comic, you're getting something you like. It's a complete win-win. I don't lose if you get a comic you like that I don't. And I think that's a fact I think that more people should keep in mind. If these things are getting sold out there and people are picking them up, enjoying them, feeling like they're getting a good experience, etc., then swell. I get nothing taken away from me by you enjoying a comic. And people should keep that in mind. But at the same time, as we're seeing comic sales kind of flat or anemic or struggling to kind of make it past a certain level, I look at Captain Marvel often with a bit of frustration because I think that Captain Marvel as a comic should be selling way better with the marketing that they're putting into it, or with the character. Disney clearly wants to make a franchise out of it. You've got a strong woman with superpowers that can pretty much do anything, and that on paper, that should work. So why isn't it? Because it and people are like, what do you mean? She's very popular. Yeah, but the comic isn't selling. And the comeback to that of like, well, comics are dying in general as a medium. That's not an acceptable argument because lots of indie comics are managing to make a go of it. And, they're succeeding. So why are they succeeding and this one isn't? Because Captain Marvel did not, as a comic, hasn't benefited from the massive success of the movie. Why? And I think this page kind of sums it up in a lot of ways. It's if you were a whoever you were, boy, girl, man, woman, and you're coming to this comic to get a feel like this superpower character, and you're confronted with this, it reads weird. Now again, some will say I'm making too big a deal out of it. And I am. I've deliberately picked one, little tiny section of 2 panels, and I'm super analyzing it, more than a reasonable person should. Yes, that is true. But I'm trying to really dig into what is it that took us off track? Because I'm reasonably confident that the majority of people who are complaining about this stuff are not complaining because the writer is a woman. I'm reasonably sure. Are there a few? I'm sure there are a few. But the vast majority, I think, could care less whose name's on that cover if they're getting a good story. I also don't think it's because the character, is a woman character. I think people are ready to sign up and come read this stuff. I think it's the style, it's the writing, it's how this is produced. It's clunky because unfortunately there's a million examples like this one. This is a common kind of 2-panel structure that you see all over the place. And it's, and you can pick on all kinds of Hawkeye or Daredevil or some of the X-Men titles and other things, and you get this stuff and you think to yourself, is anyone going to remember this as a big moment 30 years from now? Certainly not these panels. Is it contributing to the comic? It doesn't feel like it. So again, like I said at the beginning, I don't know if I proved anything or I just kind of talked around it or what. And you may completely disagree, flat disagree. This is me being an asshole. Understood. But there's something here. There's a clue here of a style of dialogue and writing comics that just doesn't land. And again, I keep going back to this isn't like a slice of life, just kind of different, quirky style. It feels tired. I've seen this joke before. I've seen it before in a bunch of really bad 80s movies. And in 2020, like 30 years later, more, no, no thank you. I just it shouldn't it shouldn't feel this tired right out the gate. But maybe it's just me. Again, please, in the comments below, let me know where I'm wrong, or do you think I'm onto something? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, follow me on social media if you feel like diving into that nonsense. Otherwise, thanks for listening, and if you were able to, at least putting your thoughts on the moment for a side, hearing me out. I always appreciate that. Thanks a lot.